Hello, and welcome to our third annual Black History Month celebration. This year's theme, celebrating Black heroes, past, present, and future. I am your host, Alicia O'Hara Stevenson, president and founder of the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association, an organization established to lead, advocate, and empower our Black communities in Dufferin County. On behalf of the entire team, I'd like to give a special welcome to each and every one of our panelists joining us today. Thank you to the Museum of Dufferin and Dufferin County for partnering on this year's celebration. At this time, I'd like to invite you to stand, if you are able, wherever you are, for the playing of our national anthem, sung by the Melissa's Way Brothers.
And I'm 9.
My name is Mark and I'm 13.
And my name is Seth and I'm 10.
And we are the Melissa's Way Brothers. Go Canada, go!
Oh, Canada, our home and native land. True patriot love in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land, forming us and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
I'd like to read our land and ancestral acknowledgement. We honor our ancestors of African descent who are intrinsically linked to the land, who fought for our survival and helped to shape the mosaic of Dufferin County in Canada. We honor those leaders such as William and Mary Gant, Emily Colley, the Hannison family, those who are unknown, and the current leaders who continue to shape our community. We would also like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that Dufferin County resides within the traditional territory and ancestral lands of the Tionontati, Attawandaron, Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples. We also acknowledge that various municipalities within the County of Dufferin reside within the treaty lands named under the Haldeman Deed of 1784 and two of the Williams Treaties of 1818. Treaty 18, the Nottawasaga Purchase, and Treaty 19, the Adjutant's Treaty. These traditional territories upon which we live and learn are steeped in rich Indigenous history and traditions. It is with this statement that we declare to honor and respect the past and present connection of Indigenous peoples with this land, its waterways, and resources. At this time, I'd like to invite everyone to keep the people of Ukraine in our thoughts and prayers as we go out our days today. It is my honor to introduce Ontario's Solicitor General and Dufferin Caledon MPP, the Honorable Sylvia Jones, to say a few words.
Thanks, Althea, and thank you for talking about Ukraine. I think many of us are feeling a little helpless and want to share some love with our neighbors, and friends. So appreciate that. I am very pleased to be able to join you, even if it is a virtual event and hopefully one of the last that we have to do. I'd like to begin by thanking the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association for making a difference in the lives of others in our community. Your leadership in our community over the past number of years has created so many different opportunities for residents here in Dufferin and Caledon. You launched your website during the pandemic and have since hosted numerous discussions, events, and provided resources for individuals and businesses, all virtually and all with much community engagement and support. Well done. The Dccba virtual scholarships held in 2021 was outstanding, with the help of organizations, individuals, and businesses sponsoring scholarships. Dccba celebrated the educational accomplishments of 11 talented students who were awarded scholarships for their post-secondary education and 3 bursaries for students entering high school. Since its inception, I think the Dccba members have succeeded in their mission to bring positive changes in our community that support our collective goals for diversity and inclusion for all families and individuals who call Dufferin County home. Diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives do make an impact. I am proud that the Ontario government this month announced the investment of an additional $14 million in the Black Action Youth Plan that is set up to help youth access employment opportunities and career building resources. The funding will be used to create a new economic empowerment program to help community organizations and Black-led businesses create local projects that provide the skills youth need to find jobs in high-growth sectors. This program includes 3 new initiatives that will enable community organizations and Black-led employer and business leaders to design programs that help Black youth and young professionals achieve social and economic success by building pathways to jobs. This type of investment ensures that we have a future-forward workforce that is inclusive and equitable access to jobs and opportunities. My office, of course, is always available for anyone who's interested in finding out more about the Black Youth Action Plan. Thank you again to Dccba and the Museum of Dufferin for putting on this celebration of Black History Month. I look forward to the rest of the programming you have in store for us this afternoon. Thank you. Stay well, everyone.
Thank you so much, Sylvia Jones, for joining us today. Up next, it is my honor to introduce the Honorable MP Kyle Seaback.
Hey Dufferin Caledon, I am really sorry that I can't be there with you tonight to celebrate Black History Month. I do, though, want to take a moment to thank 2 organizations. I really want to thank the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association for all the fantastic work that you're doing in our community. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the Museum of Dufferin for this event tonight and for all the work that they are doing to educate and promote Black History Month. I really hope you have a great night tonight.
The Museum of Dufferin have curated a display and cataloged stories of Dufferin County's rich Black history. Research is ongoing, however, they have created this amazing PowerPoint presentation to tell the story of our Black past community heroes. William and Mary Gant were settlers in Melanchthon, Dufferin County. William and Mary Gant are believed to be emancipated slaves who moved to Melanchthon Township from New York State in 1849 with their 2 sons. William owned over 300 acres of farmland, which the family used to grow oats, peas, and barley, and tap into about 250 trees for maple syrup. Emily Clarkson was born in 1824 in Vaughan. Her mother is noted on the 1851 census as Black, born in Canada, although later records indicate she was born in the United States. We do not know the name or cultural background of her father. Emily married William Coley, a man from England and a recent immigrant to Canada in 1854. William bought 50 acres of land in Amaranth Township at Lot 5, Concession 9, prior to 1861. Here, Emily and William raised their family of 13 children. George Hannison Sr. George Hannison was the illegitimate son of Hannah Ketchum and a Black slave, originally from Mali, Africa. Hannison family lore says that Hannah Ketchum, who lived in Toronto at her brother's home, was active in the Underground Railroad. This was a system used by abolitionists in the United States between 1800 and 1865, but most active between the 1830s and 1860s to help enslaved African Americans escape to free states in Canada. The family believes this is how Hannah met George's father. George was given the last name of Hannison, as in Hannah's son. The family did not want him to have the last name Ketchum. After marrying his wife, Mary, in 1846, George and family moved to Mono Township in 1849, a property owned by George's uncle. After his uncle's death, it took 7 years of legal delays for George to own the property. George and his family ran a successful farm. By 1871, they had cleared 75 acres with 6 acres as pasture, 1 acre for orchard, 33 acres for wheat, 9 acres for hay, and smaller amounts scattered amongst oats, peas, and potatoes. The family had a large stock of animals as well: 2 horses, 2 fillies, 3 cows, 6 horned cattle, 18 sheep, 12 swine, and 4 hives of bees. John Sturgis. John Sturgis was born in the United States in 1817. He came to Canada before 1842, where he met his future wife, Mary. In July 1849, John received a location ticket from the Crown for a free grant of 50 acres at Lot 259, Concession 1, Northeast in Melanchthon Township, later known as the village of Corbiton. The Sturgis family set about constructing a home for the coming winter and putting in supplies. By 1851, John, Mary, and their 3 children and his family had constructed a single-story log cabin and cleared 6 acres of land, planting wheat, rye, oats, potatoes, and turnips. In the 1851 census, the family is noted as being colored, which means, based on the date of the location ticket, are the first known Black citizens of Dufferin County. Louis Gant. Louis John Gant was born in the southern United States in 1826. As a young man, he traveled north to Buffalo, where he worked for 12 years as a sailor on the Great Lakes shipping routes from Buffalo to Chicago. He crossed the border into Canada, settling in Toronto, where he worked at the Lambton Flour Mills. It is believed he met his wife, Marianne, a settler from County Monaghan, Ireland, in Toronto. Louis petitioned for and received a free land grant from the Crown. A location ticket was issued to Louis on October 15th in 1849 for 50 acres at Lot 258, Concession 1, Northeast in Melanchthon Township. Louis and Anne raised a family of 3 sons and 5 daughters, all born in Melanchthon Township, and all noted as mulatto on either the census or their marriage registrations. Louis was recognized as one of the founding families and earliest settlers of the McDowell's Corners area of Melanchthon. They were members of St. Patrick's Catholic Church. Both Louis and his wife, Anne, were buried in St. Patrick's Cemetery. Richard Pearpoint. Richard Pearpoint endured 20 years of slavery, the dangerous life of a British soldier through 2 wars, and, as a very old man, the hardships of settlement in the wild lands of Garafaxia Township, just across what is now the present-day border between Wallington and Dufferin County. To augment their numbers in the American Revolutionary War of 1776 to 1783, British authorities offered freedom to enslaved Americans who enlisted with loyalist troops. After 20 years of slavery, Pearpoint seized the opportunity to escape into the Niagara region and joined the battalion known as Butler's Rangers. In 1820, the Upper Canadian government awarded Pearpoint a land grant in Garifaxia for his service in the Colored Corps during the War of 1812. To claim their land from the Crown, each settler had to clear 5 acres of bush, build a cabin, and complete a road allowance along their property. Pearpoint, who had never married and was now in his 70s, would have relied on assistance of his friends and neighbors to complete the task. He was granted ownership in 1826. For more information, please visit the Wallington County Museum and Archives. Thank you. Research is ongoing, and the research of early Black settlers in Dufferin County continues with the Museum of Dufferin. The stories of those brave enough to claim and clear land in the harsh climates of this region are often left out of history books. Photographs and archival material is difficult to find, but through resources such as Ancestry.com, enthusiastic genealogists add to their family trees. This helps us to make important discoveries and put together the pieces to bring Black stories to the forefront. Today, the Museum of Dufferin is actively collecting materials from Black-owned businesses and organizations in our community to add to the permanent collection. We welcome you to contact the museum if you have any questions or potential donations. At this time, we are thrilled to have with us today Grammy Award-winning artist and author Dan Hill. Dan will read from his book, I Am My Father's Son, a memoir of love and forgiveness. This book is available through HarperCollins, so please also check Dan's Facebook page, as he has just announced a new single, which came out Friday. It is a single called Something More, a duet with the amazing Julie Black. Welcome, Dan.
Well, thank you so much. This is actually a very informative Zoom for me. So, Alicia, I just feel really, really privileged to be a part of this. Okay, so, one confession to get out of the way is I am probably the worst reader of all time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to speak and address things I've written in my memoir from 2009, as well as my new book, which is about to be released, and that's called The Healing Confessions of a Biracial Hitmaker. So one of the things that seemingly the media never talks about is the absolute power and influence on every conceivable level of the Black middle class. Most of the successes, off the chart successes of our Black politicians, leaders, musicians, authors, they almost all have come out of the Black middle class. For example, my grandfather graduated from Howard University with a PhD in theology, the esteemed Black college that Kamala Harris graduated from. His father was the first Black dentist in the Washington, D.C. area, the first Black person to actually own a fridge. My grandmother's mother was the first Black gynecologist, and also her sister ended up being the first Black psychiatrist. These are all examples of enormous success of people coming out of the Black middle class. My grandfather was in close contact with the alumni from Howard. And as you can well imagine, in America in the 20s and 30s, the Black luminaries, the intelligentsia, when they were touring America, be them authors, musicians, college professors, could not stay in hotels or motels, as you know, due to racism. So where did they stay? They would board with middle-class Black families. So imagine my father at the age of 7, going to the table for breakfast and sitting next to Langston Hughes, who probably is the greatest author of all time. the brilliant W.E. Du Bois sociologist quoted this as being the talented 10th, meaning the so-called cream of the crop, the black movers and shakers, again, the dentists, the authors, et cetera, et cetera. So the role modeling that my father, for example, and his sisters were exposed to was a big reason why they in turn became hugely successful and influential. In my father's case, starting out the first commission of its kind in Canada, the Ontario Human Rights Commission, and going on to be the first Black ombudsman. I'm going to give you another very interesting example, Sam Cooke. Without question, the greatest songwriter, producer, and singer of all time. Sam Cooke was the first Black artist to actually cross over to the mainstream public. Not only was he crazy successful, but he was smart enough to start his own publishing company and record company. The first time any entertainer had done that, be that white, purple, or Black. And he went on to sign indigent but brilliant Black songwriters like Bobby Womack. And guess what? Through Sam Cooke's connections, the Rolling Stones cut Bobby Womack's back single, This Will Be the Last Time, which was the Stones' first big hit single. So Sam Cooke, for example, and Bobby Womack were making millions, based on white superstars cutting their songs. Sam Cooke, interestingly enough, father was a minister, right? And Sam Cooke's father's best friend was Aretha Franklin's father, who was also a minister. Well, that therefore connected Sam Cooke and Aretha Franklin, and Sam Cooke was the person who really taught Aretha Franklin how to sing. Again, both Aretha and Sam Cooke coming out of these Black middle-class families with the kind of a power and mentoring to end up being the greatest stars pretty much of all time. Moving forward from Sam Cooke, to get a little bit more personal, 20 years ago, I did a forum with the unbelievably gifted Alicia Keys. We did this forum in the toughest, most disenfranchised high school in New York City. And our theme for the Zoom was how we ourselves were first exposed to music and how we ended up becoming musicians. And so interestingly enough, in Alicia's case, as well biracial, her mother at the age of 7 told Alicia she had to start studying piano, right? So at her mother's behest, Alicia started studying classical piano at the age of 7. Well, same with me and my family. My father insisted that I start learning to play a musical instrument. Any instrument you want, he said. The drums, I said, anything but the drums. So because of my father's influence, I picked up classical guitar. So both Alicia Keys and I had a huge head start on competing musicians and songwriters because we were already kind of masters of our instruments by the time we were 11. In Alicia Keys' case, her mother also had her enroll into a private creative art school in New York City, very expensive. And that was where Alicia learned even more so how to become a better musician, singer, and songwriter, thus paving her way to being one of the most successful artists of all time. I suppose the same would be true with my brother and myself. Not only was our father extremely demanding, he was demanding for the same reason all middle-class Black parents are demanding. We had to superachieve to transcend the systemic racism. This is upon all of us. And so, this resulted in unusually high achievements from so many Black children of these kind of families. Kamala Harris, we know that her parents met as activists protesting in Berkeley. Obama, well, we know his story. We know how his mother made him get up 2 hours before every class at school and study for 2 hours. Donna Summer, who I was lucky enough to work with and live with in her Santa Monica home, same thing, middle-class parents demanding nothing but perfection. I've already talked about Jay-Z. I've already talked about The Weeknd and his competitor out of Toronto. Not only are these people galvanizing the economy, they are also hiring nothing but Black people to work with them. So every time Drake has a hit, guess what? There are Black songwriters and Black producers living in Toronto who are making veritable millions writing and producing songs for Drake and The Weeknd. Every time a Black artist becomes a superstar, they are always hiring about 100 to 200 Black people. So all this to say that due to the power of the Black middle class, both past and present, Black artists are really, fueling the economy both in America and Canada more so than any other business. So all I can say is we really need to celebrate and be aware of our phenomenal achievements coming out of the Black middle class. Again, something that the media, for obvious reasons, tends to be reluctant to discuss. Thanks. And thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Dan, for sharing that rich history, especially regarding our middle class with us. Your latest book, can you just tell us briefly a little bit about the book and where people can get them?
Oh, sure. Well, it's my book about about banging out records for pretty much 50 years, because at the age of 19 in 73, Harry Belafonte, Jose Feliciano, and the great Black jazz singer Cleo Lane had already cut my songs. These were the people who mentored me, as well as Tina Turner, who also cut my songs. So these were my mentors. These were the people who taught me. So what I am talking about in this book is my experiences 50 years in this music business as a biracial singer-songwriter, and the kind of stuff I had to go through, So it's actually a lot easier for me to write about this stuff than talk about it. But it's very much a history of what happens to Black artists who have been fortunate enough to have unparalleled success, what they had to overachieve, how that racism just made them all the more determined to succeed. So it's really a historical story, but also a story of inspiration and redemption and healing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I love that. And for anyone who would like a copy of Dan Hill's book, I Am My Father's Son, if you are local, you can connect with Booklore in Orangeville. If not, you can purchase a copy on Amazon. Thank you so much for coming and joining us today, Dan.
My privilege. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Wonderful. At this time, I would like to give you a special treat. It is a beautiful digital story of how our community works together to support Black community initiatives right here in Dufferin County.
Black History Month is the perfect time to celebrate the amazing accomplishments of Black Canadians right here in Dufferin County that have contributed not only to Dufferin County, but to the fabric of Canada as a whole. Oftentimes, when we think about Black history, the narrative is always around slavery, and there is so much more to our rich culture, our rich history and heritage than slavery.
There really isn't Canadian history without Black history, as far as I'm concerned. Throughout the history of this great country, Black Canadians have played a pivotal role in the cultural, social, political, economic development of our country.
Black History Month is important because Black history is Canadian history. It's an opportunity for all of us, but particularly members of the Black community, to reflect, to think back on those who helped to pave the way, those who have made sacrifices, those who have achieved, to allow us to hold our heads high and to be proud of who we are. And so Black history is important, not just for me, but certainly for, I think, the entire community.
It shows that we've contributed to this very place that we're living in. And often we're forgotten. We've contributed in wars. We've contributed in many things. We've created and invented things. And in order for us to continue to do this, I think it's good to see representation of things that we have done.
So to consider Canadian history without also considering Black history, I think is really only seeing part of the picture.
It's important to celebrate our rich diversity in Dufferin County and Canada. When I look at our community, yes, we are one Black community, but our history is so rich and diverse.
I have young ones coming up, and everyone does, and you want to inspire them to be their best and to know that they could be anything and do everything else.
I think that Black history is important so other cultures can know how brilliant Black people are. I think Black history is important because there's a lot of like special foods and like special names and like special like hair colors.
I think as Canadians, we welcome and celebrate people of all different backgrounds, religions, practices, etc. It also brings diverse perspectives and experiences that I think really enriches us as a community, as a country. And so diversity is not, as I say, just a hashtag. It really does mean something. I think it helps to certainly make better decision making, better outcomes when we have as many people at the table as possible.
Been in Shelburne for about 15 years now, and you can definitely see there's been a big diverse change of population in Shelburne. And so in the past there probably wasn't a lot of culture and there wasn't a lot of diversity. Just understanding that how we come together culturally and work together and how we create prosperity and opportunity for people of every race and color.
Right here in Dufferin County, our history is rich with individuals like William and Mary Gant, one of the first recorded Black settlers right here in the township of Melanchthon. These individuals cleared acres of land to plant rye and oats and raise their family. Individuals like the Hannison family, who hails from Mono and at one point had residence in the town of Orangeville, right on Broadway.
Suppose that what we'll see, over the next 15, 20, 50 years is a growing diversity within Dufferin County, and I think that's a tremendous thing. We can see it in the town of Shelburne already. Really, quite frankly, I think get to a point where they appreciate the humanity that they share with their neighbors, regardless of skin color, regardless of cultural backgrounds, regardless of religious affiliation. More diversity, a togetherness, a tight-knit community, a community that continues to be celebrated and seen as an example in Dufferin County. And so that's what, again, this is what Mayor Mills and I was hoping to achieve when we got involved in politics. We're certainly seeing the fruits of the labor now, and I think it's our expectation that that continues for years to come.
The Mod, known as a historical place where you can share in history, research, but more importantly, it's like a community where individuals can come in and see the rich history that has been cataloged, archived right here, cataloging the rich history of our Black community.
We grew up only on one type of history, but it's not the entire story. So now having Black history and other history from other diverse backgrounds is important.
Each and every one of us brings something unique, a unique thread that is woven together as part of this great mosaic of Canada, this great fabric of Canada. And it's important when you bring all of these individual threads together, that's when you have a beautiful tapestry. Individually, we are fantastic, but together, you make something amazing.
I think Dufferin will be like, there will be so much more Black businesses and Black stores and Black food and like Black fruits and like Black farmers. That's what I see. Well, I would see like more Black businesses and more Black workers.
Happy Black History Month!
Special thanks to Tristan Barracks, the digital storyteller, for creating this beautiful video. And a special thanks to all of our local businesses who supported this initiative, participated, our local leaders, Mayor Mills, Deputy Mayor Steve Anderson, for sharing their insights and perspectives on this rich video. At this time, I would like to present the present conversation with two amazing leaders in our community. I'd like to invite Shelburne's Deputy Mayor and County Councillor Steve Anderson to the stage, as well as community leader and chef extraordinaire, Mr. Phil Dewar, to the stage. Welcome, gentlemen. The question that I would love to pose to both of you, the first question is for Phil, and then perhaps Steve, you can jump off from there. As a resident of Dufferin County for many years, you have seen the growth and changes of our community. Can you speak to some of these changes from a business perspective? And of course, Deputy Mayor Anderson, you can follow up with changes from a political perspective.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me again. Greetings to everybody. Yeah, that's a great question, Lethea. I can speak to the growth of the business community since I've been here as a business person myself, being one of the very first Black-owned establishments. You know, at that time, it was very seldom that you would see Black establishments, and now you're seeing them more prevalent in our small town of Shelburne and small town of Orangeville. You're seeing restaurants, you're seeing barber shops, you're seeing groceries, small grocery and specialty groceries. It's really rewarding to see that, and that they're being frequented, that people are stepping outside of their comfort zone, and they're also being well run, they're also being well respected. And with organizations such as these and the museum on board, we're able to galvanize the efforts so that, you know, we can continue to promote ourselves and promote our businesses. So it's really rewarding to see what, you know, started off as a small business with myself has now opened the doors for other businesses to thrive in the Dufferin County.
Yeah, let me just follow up on that and say, first of all, man, I'm just so excited to share this platform with my boy Phil. What a humble guy about his role in sort of trailblazing a path here in Orangeville and in Dufferin County as a whole. And so, you know, having this discussion and not having you here and talk about your experience and how you paved the way wouldn't be proper. So I'm really grateful that I have this opportunity to be here with you. I also want to give a shout out before I get into the political side to Tristan as well. I mean, this brother's work is outstanding. And so, you know, to do that video with his guidance was just certainly amazing. And I think it really captures the very essence of this conversation and what we're trying to do in Dufferin County. So a big shout out to him again. The changes politically, before I even talk about that, I want to touch on something that Dan spoke about, because what Dan was speaking about was Black excellence, right? And Black excellence has started before slavery and it continues until now. And knowledge is power. And just hearing him speak and share the stories of excellence is inspiring. And this is the reason why we need to have platforms like this. And as leaders, as I transition to politically, we have a role ourselves to play to make sure that these stories, the history continues to be amplified, not just in February, but 365 days of the year. So whatever we're talking about our curriculum or in other aspects in our society, there's a role to play as leaders. In Dufferin County, I guess for me, the first and obvious change with me politically would be my own involvement into politics, being first appointed in 2017 as the first Black councillor for the town of Shelburne, and then 10 short months later, elected as the first Black deputy mayor for the town of Shelburne and becoming a councillor for the county of Dufferin. So certainly that is a major change that I've been a part of, certainly. And I would also say that, not to say that there wasn't work being done before, but certainly since the death of George Floyd, we've seen significant changes. The needle has moved quite significantly, not just in Dufferin County, but certainly around the world. There's a galvanization towards diversity, equity, and more importantly, the word inclusion. You could have diversity. If you don't have inclusion, you don't have anything as far as I'm concerned. And so some of the things that I've seen politically is certainly, if we start with the town of Shelburne with the anti-racism task force, discrimination task force, and the recommendations that they've made and that council has adopted, that led to the first ever diversity and inclusion committee from the town of Shelburne. That extended to the county of Dufferin, establishing their first D&I committee. And that didn't end there. The county work certainly continued with the creation of the Director of People and Equity under the leadership of Sonia Pritchard and many others. And so that work continues there, and I'm proud of that. We just heard from our Solicitor General as we talk about political leadership, talk about the $14 million that is being included to the Black Youth Action Plan. And I know that she's still on. You could rest assured that we will be following up to make sure that those dollars are flowing to our Black community right here in Dufferin County. We've seen, I see the big thumbs up. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. But we've seen other political leaders, and I'm grateful for this. You know, whether it's through statements, the flag raising ceremonies that we've seen across Dufferin County, the financial support to the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say the former warden, Darren White. He's always so proud, and he wears this as a badge of honor, and I hope he's listening, that he's the first warden to proclaim Black History Month in the county of Dufferin. And that legacy and that tradition is continuing with our current warden and Shelburne Mayor, Wade Mills, excuse me. And so my hope is that this political leadership continues for years to come. And lastly, let me just pause and just give a shout out to our community partners, whether it's our museum, whether it's the media, our libraries, our bookstores that are amplifying Black voices and celebrating our history. Everybody has a role to play, including our political leadership. And as I mentioned before, I'd like to see that continue for years to come.
Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor Anderson and Chef Phil Dewar, for sharing your stories and talking about the rich history that we have right here in Dufferin County. Demonstration of excellence right here, right now, every single day. So I appreciate you sharing your stories with us. At this point, I would like to introduce our future panel. Our future panel includes the godfather of Canadian hip hop and children's book author or friend, Maestro Fresh West, and students from Centre Dufferin District High School's Black Chapter. We have Danielle Bryan, DeAndre Bryan, and Gabby Spencer. Maestro, could you please start off by telling us a little bit about your children's book, Young Maestro Goes to School?
All right, first of all, thanks for having me. This is like the third year. I just want to say that national anthem was the greatest I ever heard. I just wanted to mention that. So stick to your vision. Young Maestro Goes to School is based on, my come up, born in Toronto, raised in Toronto. And it's my second book. My first one, it was this one right here called Stick to Your Vision, How to Get Past the Hurdles and the Haters to Get to Where You Want to Be. Now, I define vision as a forward moving, motivating intention. So once again, vision is a forward, moving, motivating intention. So if you stay still, your vision's going to die. And because I'm an MC, we like to rhyme, I broke it down in 3 sections, which is expectation, operation, and destination. So regardless of where you're at, and this is what I love this panel so much that was put together, we as a community, we have to have a high expectation of ourselves. Operation is just going through the trials and tribulations to get to our destination, whatever specific destination that is. And I guess in February, that's the time we have a celebration. But to me, like was said earlier, we celebrate every day. Now, the beauty of the first book is, because we want to speak about we say Black heroes past and present. I got to say a special shout out to Chuck D from the legendary Public Enemy, because he is one of my mentors as a kid growing up. And I was fortunate enough to have Chuck D write the foreword for my very first book. Now, here's the cool thing. The second one right here, which was written and put together during this global pandemic. I got Cardinal Official to write the foreword for that. Throughout his time, I've known Cardinal since he was 13. He told me that I was one of his mentors. So it's just like, as you say, past, present, and future. I thought that would be something very, very important to mention. People told me, when you're doing a kids books don't have chapters. But I said to myself, wait a minute, these are some unconventional times. So let me do my thing in an unconventional way. And I remember going to a Ontario Black History Society event, and Zanena Akande, who's the first Black female member of parliament, she spoke. And when the elders speak, I like to sit back and take notes. And one of the things that resonated with Zanena Akande's speech was, she said these words that made a major impact on my life, and that's effective efforts have been made to control our stories. I thought about that, and I thought about so many ways of effective efforts having an impact on us, controlling for us not knowing our true greatness. Okay, so even though I wrote a kid's book, I said, let's break this down in 3 sections, man. Expectation from a youth perspective. We, as we raise our kids, man, even from a mentoring perspective, we got to let them know that don't let anybody tell you can't accomplish in life what you want to accomplish. Very, very important. So set that high. Operations, putting that work in. I tell students all the time, it's okay if you don't do that well on one test. You got another chance to come back. I got a 13-year-old now, and I always told him, listen, the repetition will always help your preparation when you're doing, it doesn't matter if it's Taekwondo, it doesn't matter if you're playing other sports, it doesn't matter if you're doing school. That repetition, that studying will help you become ready. Okay, so that's basically what the book is about. And chapter 1, like I said, it's called Expectation, and it was based on me growing up, being the only Black kid in my first grade class, and the teacher said, draw a picture of what you want to do when you grow up. So there were people drawing pictures of firefighters, people drawing pictures of astronauts. I decided to draw a picture of the most popular hockey player at the time. And it wasn't Wayne Gretzky. It wasn't Sidney Crosby. We went way back. We talking about number 4, Bobby Orr. I want to say a special shout out to Leon Eclipse Robinson, who did amazing illustrations. But I want to show you something in this book that's based on my come up. That's me. I'm my first grade teacher, my second grade teacher, really, Mr. Wilson. That picture that I drew of a Black hockey player did not go over too well in class. All right, I got beat up by eight of my classmates, but the pain went away. But what still with me was that the very first time somebody actually told me you can't accomplish something. And what I want to always tell you students coming up, don't let anybody tell you can't accomplish in life what you want to accomplish. I remember a few years back, remember when the Pan Am Games were in Toronto? One of the torch holders was Bobby Orr. So I thought, wow, I have an opportunity here to meet Bobby Orr. So how about if I give him a copy of my first book? So the first chapter, don't laugh, but I named the first chapter, Black Man Can't Skate. Remember that movie, White Man Can't Jump? So I thought that'd be funny, And I told the story that I mentioned in my kid's book. So I signed it, whatever like that. I'm thinking I'm going to get to meet Bobby Orr just to give him the book. Well, Pan Am Games came, he was a little too busy. But 2 months later, the concierge in my building called me down and said, listen, you got a gift for you from somebody. It was Bobby Orr. And he gave me his book. He said, Maestro, I missed you at the Pan Am Games. Your book is fresh. I hope you like my book too, signed Bobby Orr. I just wanted to share that with you because at the end of the day, we got to set a high expectation of ourselves, right? And this is an opportunity right now to celebrate that greatness. And I want to share all those kids out there, the youth out there. I want y'all to be the best version of yourself. Be the greatest version of yourself. This month, not only did I do a seminar with Dan Hill, which we just did, and he was just hitting me in the head with all kinds of ideas, inspiring me musically. But I did one a couple of days ago with his brother, Lawrence Hill, who wrote the Book of Negroes. So within our community right here, we have so many people that we could look at as a point of reference for success and a point of reference for greatness. Okay, and I just wanted to definitely share that with you. Remember, vision is a forward moving, motivating intention. So if you stay still, your visions are going to stop. So we got to keep it moving. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Maestro. I'd like to invite the students, Danielle, Gabby, and DeAndre, to see if they have any questions for you. They are our current leaders, young leaders, and they're paving the way, doing some amazing things at St. Dufferin District High School right now. So if you want to ask the Maestro any questions, now is your chance.
Hi, Gabrielle. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you. So what I'm going to say, when they figure out on the question tip, I'm just going to say, listen, opportunities like this, we celebrate our history all the time. People have asked me for advice growing up, when they were growing up and saying, Maestro, I want to be a rapper like you. Do you have any advice? And I say, yeah, I do. They say, what's the advice? I say, very simple. Don't make records, make history. We have an opportunity right now to make our own history, and that's what we're doing. enough respect.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. Gabby, I'm going to put you on the spot for one quick second. You've heard some legends. You've heard, Dan Hill's talk earlier, and now the maestro. What lessons do you think you can take in your life today and going forward from the legacy that they've established?
I can take like how their experiences have shaped them and motivated them into a better person when making history. Like Maestro was talking about how he drew a Black hockey player to motivate him, and he got beat up for that. And that's obviously a very negative thing, but you didn't let that weigh down on you at a very young age, and you let that motivate you into what's the word I'm looking for? Encouraging you to be a better person, and I can't find the words right now, but using the negativity from a young age, or even just any negativity, to build a better person for the future.
Gabrielle, I just want to say, like, if it was meant for me to be a hockey player, I think I would have done it, but that wasn't the point. The point that's the first time somebody actually told me I couldn't do something based on my color, based on my race, So, like I said, that pain went away, but that was the first time someone actually, said something on that note. And to me, as I go forth and forward, I don't want my community feeling that same ailment, if you want to call it that. And so when opportunities like this come through, it's an honor to meet you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. DeAndre, as a young man growing up, what question do you have for Maestro?
So growing up, my parents, my mom especially, had been telling me that a lot of our Black history is like, a lot that we hear and we take back from school, it's all surface level. Our history is like an iceberg. There's so much below the surface that isn't touched on. We just barely scratch what's above the water. And I was just wondering, like, you growing up, how much of what was touched on did like stay with you and resonate with you and help inspire you throughout your career and your life?
That's an excellent question as well. Now, here's my thing. Coming up, we didn't really have that many role models or points of reference. Do you remember when I mentioned earlier when I was speaking, and I mentioned that I went to a Black History Society event and I met Zanena Kande? Well, that same event right there, they had upstairs a whole bunch of books. And there was a book that stood out to me. It was orange, and it said Against All Odds. So I picked it up, and it was the story of William Peyton Hubbard, who was the Black mayor of Toronto. Like that kind of blew my mind, because it's like they never showed us that coming up, that Toronto once had a Black mayor. Imagine if kids growing up can see that version of themselves right there coming up. I just did an interview with Arnold Pennock on my radio show a couple of days ago about the Porters. It's on CBC, and that's about the Black history of Porters coming through in the early 1900s, Black Porters. And these are the things and these are the stories that if we knew about them on our come up, that will help us be better versions of ourselves. Your mother is right. There are layers, but we got to scratch the surface and go deep and beyond, and use that as a launching pad to help us go forth and forward.
Love that. Love that. Danielle, over to you. What question do you have for Maestro? And if you want to jump off with, that iceberg comment earlier, there's so much more below the surface. Do you have any questions for Maestro?
Yeah, I actually do. So my question is, what do you believe is your most important contribution to the Canadian Black music industry?
My biggest contribution? That's a good question, because accolades are accolades, like, I don't know, man. To me, I'm proud of what I've accomplished in the past, but I just coached this basketball team a couple of days ago. That's what I'm proud of, one of the things is I'm proud of the fact that I don't lie on my laurels, and I continue going forth and forward. Remember, I told you, expectation is one thing. Operation is putting that work in. But when you reach a destination, there are more expectations for you. So it's hard for me to really just say, these are the awards I've won, and I'm proud of that. I will say being the first hip hop artist to go gold in Canada, that means a lot to me, because when you see a brother like Drake give me a shout out telling me that I helped him with his confidence, and he's like one of the top artists in the world, and he's from Toronto, that means something to me, that I'm a part of the equation of our greatness here. So that's one of them. Thank you.
Awesome. Do you have any other questions, Danielle?
Yeah, I actually have one more, and it is, what does Black history mean to you?
Black history means to me is our launching pad for greatness, knowing that, you know, we started from the bottom, but now we're here. But let's scratch that surface and find out these beautiful stories and use that as a battery in our back for us to go forth and forward. So that's what Black history means to me. And it's something that should not be within the parameters of 28 days. This is something we celebrate every single day. Right now I'm celebrating seeing you guys, you know? Definitely.
That's fantastic, Maestro. How can we continue the conversation beyond February? And I'll ask the students the same question as well.
How we continue beyond February, just continue having these conversations, daily, weekly, what have you, you know? And that's what it is. Every day, especially in a time like this, when we got the COVID cloud over our heads, nobody is 100% okay. We've all been impacted to one capacity or the other. We need reassurance all the time for a mental wellness as well, you know, from a cultural wellness perspective as well. So definitely let's keep it moving all year long.
I love that. Gabby, I know that the Black chapter has been doing some amazing things, especially when it comes to self-love. Can you touch a little bit about, you know, some of the great work that you guys are doing in the high school?
So in the high school, we don't have a presence in the high school as much as we do online, but in the high school during Black History Month, we have a thing called Say Their Names campaign, where over the announcements every day they would list 10 people who died to police brutality, and that's a very important thing that we've started doing since last year during Black History Month. Outside of Black History Month, we've been educating about Black heroes, Black achievements, some people who might not be known in Black history, because it's like we've said, a lot of Black achievements have been wiped out of the textbook or have just been overseen. During Remembrance Day, we had a bulletin talking about some important Black figures in World War I and II, about how, I think his name is, I can't remember his name right now, but how a Black soldier was the first Black soldier to receive the Victoria Cross, but was buried in an unmarked grave, but was exhumed a couple years ago, not too long ago. We bring light to them. Online, we have this, series going on called Person of the Week, where we highlight some of the people on the back of our shirts and bring light to their achievements, because like we've said and we've discussed many times, a lot of Black achievements and Black stories have been wiped clean from the history books or just have been overlooked. And we're going to try to continue to keep educating and empowering people well beyond Black History Month.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I know we are coming towards the end of our time, but I want to give Danielle and DeAndre a chance to speak if you have anything to say before we go to our closing credits.
Yeah, so I remember seeing this quote, and I can't remember who it was, but the quote was, history can only teach us if it's recorded. And that was such a really like loud quote that resonated with me, because like I mentioned before, we've only scratched the surface of our Black history. There's so much beneath the surface, so many names that are like just being revealed and just coming up and out now, that people are actually starting looking at. A lot of these names, these are names of people who have helped to shape our country, helped to shape the world as we know it. A lot of people we mentioned in the slideshow who have come in and helped to develop the land in Dufferin County. These people, I'm just hearing about them. I've never known about them. A lot of these people have helped to shape our country, not just even in Canada, the United States, the Americas themselves. Like all these people brought in from Africa as slaves, stripped of their rights, even in their own country. Back in Africa, people were sold as slaves there and sold to people coming to colonize North America. And these people were stripped of their rights, tossed into an unknown land. A lot of them even died on the boats, but when they came here, when they're forced into slavery, they helped us start build up our country. They helped to kickstart our economies. And even when they fought in wars, a lot of the names go unmentioned. Even like Gabby said, some of them who have received achievements and awards are being buried in unmarked graves, literally left to be forgotten by history, only remembered by those who knew them. The quote was just, it was a great quote. It's just stuck with me now.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
And that's why you are the leaders carrying on the torch, making sure that these names are not forgotten. Danielle, before I turn it over to Maestro for a few last words.
Yeah, okay. So I just find it kind of weird that I'm only hearing about all these stuff today. Like they don't mention these stuff in school, and I would like to learn about these things in school. But it's just the fact that they don't mention certain people in school. That's why we just have some lack of knowledge about all these people. And I just feel like we should know all these people from before.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more.
That quote from Zanina Kande, who was, like I said, the first Black female member of parliament, her quote resonates, Danielle. Effective efforts have been made to control our stories. These are all effective efforts. Once you can control somebody's story, you can control how they think. Once you can control how they think, you can control how they think about themselves. And if we don't have a high expectation for ourselves, that's just going to resonate. You see? So it's important that opportunities like this happen so we can share our stories. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, young leaders, for sharing your story, your thoughts with us today. And of course, thank you so much, Maestro, for joining us and dropping some wisdom on everyone today.
Thanks for having me.
It's an honor to host you. And for those of you who have not yet purchased a copy of Young Maestro Goes to School, please do so at his website, youngmaestro.ca. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for tuning in for our third annual Black History Month celebration. I'd like to send a special acknowledgement to the Dufferin County staff and team for partnering with us for this event. Of course, the Museum of Dufferin. Nancy, you have been amazing. To all of our community leaders, Deputy Mayor Steve Anderson, Mayor Mills, Honorable Sylvia Jones, Kyle Seaback, Dan Hill, thank you so much for all of your love, your support, and of course, all of the businesses that participated in today's amazing video done by our digital storyteller, Tristan Barracks. Mr. Martin, thank you so much, Martin Bradley, for supporting our students, and of course, St. Dufferin District High School for always supporting our initiatives. Gabby, Danielle, DeAndre, you were amazing. That's it, everyone.
Thank you.